And hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Chapters here on Armstrong Television. Chapters is the show that profiles authors, editors, and publishers in West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky. I'm Eliot Parker, and it's great to have you with us. On our program, on this episode of Chapters, we're focusing on editing and the process of editing and why writers need editors through the writing and revision process. And we have two editors with us here today that are going to talk to us a little bit about editing, and they're also going to talk to us a little bit about their new editing company called We Edit Books. And our guests today on the program are Fran Allred and Mickey Johnson. And Fran Allred grew up in Huntington, West Virginia. She attended Huntington schools and graduated with a bachelor's degree in journalism from the W. Page Pitt School of Journalism and Mass Communications at Marshall University. In 2000, she was named to the MU Journalism Hall of Fame. She was a reporter and then a woman's editor at the Charleston Gazette. She joined the Herald-Dispatch in Huntington as a reporter and covered courts and county government. She then became the features editor in what was formerly the Society Department. And in 1979, she became the managing editor, making her the first woman to be the top position and occupy the top position as a newsroom editor of a daily newspaper in West Virginia. She's held other newsroom titles, including city editor and metro editor as well. And Mickey Johnson joins us today on the program. He took sort of a non-traditional road to journalism, writing, and editing. He graduated from Huntington East High School, spent 3 years in the United States Army, including 1 in Vietnam and 7 years as a steel worker, while studying at Marshall for his journalism degree. He spent 17 years at the Herald-Dispatch as Fran Allred's weekend obituary clerk, police reporter, assistant city editor, sports editor, and content editor. He then became the executive editor of newspapers in Fremont and Port Clinton, Ohio, and also in Gainesville, Georgia. He was also the managing editor of the News Journal in Pensacola, Florida, where the newspaper won a Pulitzer Prize and Public Information Journalism runner-up for its 2004 coverage of Hurricane Ivan. He's the co-author of Rolling Thunder and The Marshall Story, both histories of Marshall football, and he and his wife Sheila, also a Huntington native, are the parents of adult twin sons. And we're delighted to have these two very successful and accomplished journalists and reporters and editors with us today on the program to talk about editing and their new company, We Edit Books. So Fran and Mickey, welcome to Chapters. Nice to have you all.
Thank you. Nice to be
Thank you,
here.
Elliot.
So I wanted to ask you first, how did this all get started? How did you guys get together and decide you wanted to start an editing company? Where did it all come from? How did it all get started?
It was your idea.
I guess it was my idea. After last summer, I think, I contacted Fran and asked her what she'd been doing, and I was a little bored actually after retirement in 2013, and suggested we try something like this, and we kicked it around for a few months, and then went through the tedious process of building a website, and one of your colleagues helped us with that, and so that's kind of where we are today.
And I know you all have worked with really writing and words and language your entire careers in various ways and in various places. What is the role of an editor? Why does a writer, if they're writing books, if they're writing poetry, if they're writing newspaper articles, why does a writer need an editor? Why do they need somebody looking at their work and giving it sort of a second or a third glance over before it goes into print?
Well, nobody's perfect, not even an editor. I think editing improves. I don't think it takes anything away from what the author has written. I think it improves it. Wouldn't change your voice, we wouldn't change your story, but we'll put in a comma or take it out or spell it correctly or whatever, so that it doesn't stand in the way of the reader enjoying the book.
And I think that's one thing that a lot of writers, I think oftentimes when they look at editing, especially if they're writing poetry or nonfiction or fiction, that they sometimes look at an editor as being overly critical. But really, your all's role is just to make the writing as strong and as smooth and as clear as it possibly can be.
It is. I think a good writer takes a reader where the reader wants to go by giving them the information they need when they need it and in the form they need it. So if you leave something out or you put it in incorrectly, it messes up the reader's pace. That seems to me to be something you want to avoid.
So when you look at the editing process, and I know this is different for the different genres and different lengths, but what is the typical process like for you, or what will it be like for you? So if an author reaches out to you and says, I want to hire you all and your company, We Edit Books, to look at my collection of short stories or my novel, what's the process going to be like? How do you all establish that relationship with that author that's contacted you?
We try to establish a relationship first. We ask that the authors send us a chapter of, or that equivalent of what they've written, and some explanation about what they want to do, what they want to accomplish. And then we try to establish a relationship with them from there. Sometimes we're not going to be the people to edit their project, whatever it is. Sometimes maybe they need someone who's more technical or who knows more about that subject or whatever. But we try to find all that out up front.
Yeah, I think it's important, I think, to get to know the writer, the author some, understand their successes, where they want to go with the work that they're providing to us, and look at it as a partnership with that author.
And I wanted to ask you too. You all mentioned your website, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I wanted to ask you about the quote on the front of the website, which I love, which is from Mark Twain, who's a great writer. And on the front of the website, it says, "The difference between the right word and the nearly right word is the same as the difference between lightning and the lightning bug." So I think when you think about editing and you think about language, I think that really kind of sums up a lot of what editing's really all about.
Yeah, in many ways, that's the genius of Mark Twain. He clearly is one of the great humorists of American writing, but we found that quote to be interesting and very appropriate for what we were trying to do.
So your all's company, We Edit Books. Tell us a little bit about, Fran kind of alluded to the initial conversation that you'll have, and Mickey, you talked about that as well. What are the different levels of editing that you all provide in terms of tiers or levels, or how light or how detailed can the editing be for a writer that's looking to find some editors for a project?
The three levels that we're offering are proofreading, which is probably the least intrusive, and that would be spelling, punctuation, grammar, copy editing. We look at those elements also, but also continuity and clear thought, that sort of thing. And then content editing, which would go to plot, character development, again, continuity, but making sure that all those components are in place so that the author has a complete manuscript that he or she feels comfortable submitting to a publisher.
Very good. And I know that one thing you all mentioned too on your website is that you all follow the principles of the Chicago Manual of Style, the AP Style Book, and the Elements of Style by Strunk and White, and also The Word by Renee Capon. So tell us a little bit about what that is, what those style guides are for, and how those can help you all help the writer make their work better.
Well, The Word and the AP Style Book are both for newspapers, for publication, for daily publication. And that's among the ones we've used all our lives, and very, very practical. The Manual of Style is about that thick. It takes quite a while to become familiar with that, and I'm not quite there yet, but it has a lot of other information that is valuable. I think it helps when you're writing and editing to have consistency in spelling, in punctuation, in capitalization, all those things. So that's one way to sort of make it all hang together, is become consistent so that nothing jumps out as, oh, there's two ways to spell that.
Mm-hmm. Would you all recommend writers consult those style books, or find them a style book that they like, as they're drafting and revising, or maybe making the suggested changes that you all suggested? I mean, would you all suggest that, or is there another writer's book that you all like or would recommend?
No, if I had to pick from that list, it would be The Word and Elements of Style. They're likely to be more helpful to a fiction writer, even a nonfiction writer. But as Fran pointed out, the AP style book and the Chicago Manual of Style are more for journalists. But actually, the Chicago Manual of Style is helpful in that it helps an author understand the construction of a book, for lack of a better term. But the word and elements of style, I think, are probably the most helpful.
Very good. Excellent. So I want to step away from this for just a moment. We'll come back to talking about your company here in just a minute. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about journalism, because you are former journalists and have spent a number of years in journalism. In terms of journalism today, just in general terms, what are your all's thoughts on journalism? I know, Fran, you've been retired a little longer than Mickey has, but what do you see now in the field of journalism that maybe is similar or different to what it was when you were working in that field? Has it changed any? Do you think it's gotten better? Has it gotten worse? What are your thoughts generally on the journalism industry or the profession itself?
Well, the first thing is that there are too few journalists, but the rapid pace that information is consumed and also created at is not helpful in my view. There's a rush to get things published. There's a rush to make sure that you're first, that you beat the Washington Post or you beat the New York Times or CNN. And it's harmful because it opens up the possibility that you're going to get something wrong. And when you do that, you lose credibility. And to me, that's the most important thing that a journalist or an author can hope to have, is their credibility and trust of the reader. So yes, if I had to critique journalism today, that's where I'd start.
Fran, how about you?
I worry about journalism. I worry about what happens if there is no journalism. I think journalists, particularly print journalists, contribute much more to the news cycle than people realize who are not in the business. That is where most of the investigative stories are done. That's where most of the local stories are done. And I think it would be very sad to not have journalists in local markets. I think that would be awful. I don't know how it's going to end. I know right now it's struggling. And I think readers and voters and citizens suffer if there isn't strong journalistic presence.
Do you think we will see a day? Well, I'll ask this question, then I'll clarify. Do you think we'll see a day when newspapers go away? Because we heard these same arguments 5 or 10 years ago when the Kindle came out. That, printed books are going to go away, and for a while they did. The e-books were the popular thing, but then people started realizing, I really read that book on my Kindle or my iPad, and I'd like to have a printed copy as well. Now we're seeing that the e-book sales are kind of plateauing. I think the Washington Post had a story on this about a year ago. E-book sales have plateaued, and printed book sales are coming back. So do you see something similar like that maybe happening with newspapers, that the newspaper's never going to totally go away?
I think we will continue to have journalism. How it's presented, I'm not sure it will always be on paper, but it will for a while. Somewhere or other, there's always going to be someone who wants to write, and they're going to write about things that affect people on a daily basis. And there's going to be someone who wants to read that. How many? I don't know. Can they make a living at it? I don't know.
Yeah. Mickey, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with Fran, but there's also going to always be somebody who's going to want to make money. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, will help newspapers. Maybe fewer of them survive, but I do think that for the foreseeable future, at least my lifetime, we'll continue to see newspapers. Everyone has gone to some type of electronic presentation of the news now, and a lot of people prefer that. I know when it comes to local news, I would rather have the newspaper, the physical product. But you mentioned the Washington Post, and many of us subscribe to newspapers that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we didn't have access to. So it's important that the electronic versions of journalism thrive. But I do think we will see fewer and fewer newspapers as time goes on.
Yeah. How do you all feel that your careers as journalists will help you now as you develop your company, We Edit Books? How does your experience translate over into the editing side? Because I know you all worked with a lot of reporters over the years and looked at a lot of copy of stories and photographs and layout of pages and all that. How does that help you with the skills that you will need when you're looking at, let's say, a novel or a collection of short stories or something like that?
I think editing a story, no matter how it's presented, is the same. If it's a book, if it's a pamphlet, if it's a newspaper story, it doesn't matter. I think I've learned how to find the answers. I can tell when there's something missing. I know what should be there, but I may not know what that should be is. But I know how to find out what it is. Most of my career has been in editing. Before that, I was a reporter at two papers, so I've been on both sides. As an editor, I wrote a good bit. I wrote columns, daily personal columns. So that part of it's the same. As long as you have a good working relationship with the author, you can call that person up and say, "What are you trying to say here? Let's figure this out." And I think it's pretty much the same.
Mickey, what are your thoughts on that?
Any type of editing, whether it's newspaper editing or manuscript editing, should be, in my view, a collaborative undertaking. Editors shouldn't be regarded as somebody who is coming in to cut your work up. There's a pretty simple formula in journalism, and it's the who, what, when, where, and why. And that, I think, needs to be present in almost any type of writing for it to make sense. But most of all, I think to get along with a writer and to make that writer understand that you're there to help, you're there to be their ally, is the most important thing that you can convey to someone.
And that was one thing that caught my attention a lot about your all's website when I was looking at it and talking with you all about the interview before we started taping today, is that there's a nice tone and a very collaborative approach to what you all say. And I've worked with editors, and I know some of our audience have too, where you turn your work over to an editor and they sort of become the other writer, or they take charge, and they kind of take the attitude of, well, if I say it's going to be this way, this is how it has to be, and if you don't like it, then you need to find another editor. But I don't sense that at all, that you all are not looking for that. You want a very much a collaborative partnership with the writer.
We'd like to improve our status as a business by helping people improve their status as authors. We're both going to read it, so neither one of us is going to take it away from the other one, I don't think. I think we want to improve it, but we certainly don't want to change anyone's style or intent.
And I think that's really, editors are like publishers or like writers, and everybody's different. Everybody's got a different focus, and I think that's really a great approach to take, that you guys are going to want to make it collaborative.
Yeah, you mentioned the website and how we approach things. Editors aren't miracle workers, but good ones are pretty close. And that's the approach that we want to take with authors and writers, that we're there to help them. We can't get inside their heads. We need to have a relationship with them that allows us to understand what the goal is for that author, for that writer.
So let me ask you about costs and fees associated with the services that you provide. Tell us a little bit about the cost structure and how that's built in, or is there a certain cost for proofreading as opposed to content editing, or how does that work? And I know every project's a little different based on the length and the amount of work that's needed, but ballpark figures, ballpark speaking, what are some of the prices that authors can expect if they would contact you all for services?
I'm going to defer to Fran.
I think I've got this right. For the basic level, we charge by the page. So for the basic level, it's going to be $2 a page. For the medium level, it's going to be $3 a page. If you want the whole ball of wax, it's going to be $6 for all of it. There might be some extenuating conditions that we would change that, but generally in that ballpark. So if you've got 100 pages, that gives you a way to kind of calculate what the cost is going to be.
Very good. And time, go ahead, Mickey.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, time-wise, I know you all kind of mentioned this in your section on the website on the What We Need From You section, which is, again, the tone I think is great. You kind of indicate this is going to take some time. We're not going to get your manuscript on Monday and have it edited and back to you on Friday. So timeline-wise, what should writers expect in terms of, and I know, again, this is different big on length and how much work needs to be done, but ballpark speaking, how long will it take? Because I know both of you had mentioned both of you are going to look at it. So how long would it take?
Exactly, and that's why it would take a bit longer than perhaps someone who's working by themselves, because we want to make sure that we're thorough and that we provide a service that's going to be helpful and that will allow that writer to work with a publisher with the confidence that they'll have a product that they can present and get in front of readers. So yeah, it will take a bit longer, the way we intend to do it, than most folks otherwise conduct business.
So how can authors get in contact with you if they're interested in reaching out to you and getting in contact with you about your company, We Edit Books? What's the best way for them to get in contact with you? Where should they go first?
I would go to weeditbooks.com, and there are buttons on there that you can send us email.
And our email address is weeditbooks1, numeral 1, @gmail.com. So we can be reached that way too. In fact, a couple of people have reached out to us on that through the email.
Okay, very good. So I did want to ask you one more question too about your website. I know it took some time to get this set up. How did you do it? Do you find it valuable to have this available to potential authors or writers that are looking for your services? Tell us a little bit about the website creation process.
It was a process.
No.
We phoned a friend, and he agreed to do it. He's done it before for others, apparently. And so we made outlines and made lists of what we wanted to say and which page and heading we wanted to put it under. And we just worked on it, kept shipping email back and forth to each other until we got it where we wanted it.
Very good. And I know that so many writers today, when they're looking for publishers or editors or writing groups or conferences, they go right to the website, right to the internet, right to Google, right to Yahoo to look for that. So
Fran's living room was the laboratory.
Yes.
That was the place
for the Frankenstein we created.
Where all the ideas came together. Right. I understand that totally. Well, we've been delighted to have Fran Allred and Mickey Johnson with us here today on Chapters, both accomplished and successful journalists in their own right, but we're talking to them and have been talking to them today about their company called We Edit Books, a service for writers and their dreams. Again, you can find more information about them from weeditbooks.com. From there, contact or click on the Contact Us tab and fill out the information. That'll go to Fran and Mickey, and they can get in contact with you about getting your book or your writing project in ship shape, ready for revision and ready to get it published and hopefully disseminated to an audience. So, Mickey and Fran, thank you all so much for coming on Chapters today. Really appreciate it, and we wish you all the best of luck with your company.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie.
We also want to take a moment to say thanks to the staff and management of Empire Books and News for providing our on-site support and assistance today. We encourage you to come down to Empire Books and News anytime you're looking to get your reading tastes satisfied. Many of the authors, editors, and publishers who've been featured on the program have their works for sale right here at Empire Books and News, so we encourage you to come down and check out the store, talk to Chris and her staff, and let them get you taken care of with whatever you're looking for right here at Empire Books and News. And if you'd like to reach out to the program via social media, we've got 3 ways that we have made that possible for you. The first is our email address, which is right here at the bottom of the screen, lp4@zoominternet.net. We do ask that you please include your name and the town or community you're writing from so that we can keep track of that correspondence. But we do read and comment and respond to all the emails that are sent to us at that email address, so please keep those comments and feedback coming. If you like to watch programs on YouTube, we have a Chapters page through the Armstrong One Wire page on YouTube, and that address is right here at the bottom of the screen. Type that into your search browser. From there, click on the Chapters tab, and we've got all of our episodes from our 3+ years of programming here on Chapters archived for you there, so you can go back and watch those programs for the second or third time, leave comments in the comments fields and interact with viewers of the program there. And if you like to be on Facebook, we have a Chapters page on Facebook as well. All you need to do is go to facebook.com, type in Chapters TV Show at the top, or go to the search bar on Facebook and type in Chapters TV Show. And from there, we've got more of our recent programming archived for you there as well. You can interact and comment, like, and do all the features that Facebook allows for those different programs. We know many of you have done that, so thank you so much for that. But if you've got one of those social media platforms you prefer, we've got a way for you to stay in contact with the program through email, through YouTube, and through Facebook. So we appreciate those of you that have used those social media platforms to engage with us here on the program. We appreciate it very much. And that's going to do it for us this time on Chapters, but please come again next time. And in the meantime, stay tuned to this station for news and views that impact you and your community.